Welcome back and welcome into another edition of I lost my logo, the Legacy Right. So I am El Capitan. I am the Picard of this enterprise, as always. I am Zachary Kaiser, the legacy of Jennifer and Kaiser. My number one, you're my number two, Andrew. I'm sorry. You're
It's
not
okay.
William Riker. You're just me when I go to the bathroom every morning. So, but this is Andrew Joseph, and we have yet another special guest, once again, a returnee, Sonja Agora, with on that you should know on Twitter. If you haven't followed already, make sure you give her follow. And she has wonderful takes. And if Twitter actually cooperates, maybe she can get back to the farming videos and the slaughtering. But of course, Twitter doesn't cooperate. So, but with that, to get started, Andrew, anything to add, plug, or introduce this episode before we jump in?
No, just so you say X is like trying to herd cats. That's why, I'm always just like sit back and watch.
I know something about herding cats. I have
Yeah.
6 of them. So, but before that, like, subscribe. If you want some more, ring that bell. We really want to beat Mr. Algorithm, as the great Larry Sharp would say. So let us beat Algorithm, and let's jump to the top because we really don't want these leftists to be ahead of us, or these libertarians in that case. A lot of these libertarians. So but let's jump into it right then and there. How are you doing this morning, Sonia?
Good, I'm doing
And
great.
in, is it a sunny Oregon morning right now, or?
Not yet. It's actually looking kind of overcast, so I don't really know what that's about. The weather has actually been really, really nice. Usually
Mm-hmm.
we're getting hit with like extreme heat right now because Oregon is all
Mm-hmm.
about extremes, but it's
Mm-hmm.
actually been pretty pleasant recently. So I don't know how much, I don't know what it's going to look like yet today.
Now, hopefully it's pleasant and not extreme like the Pacific Northwest always gets. It seems like it's either really hot or you just get rain like it's the UK.
Yeah. Last year I think it was a solid 8 months of rain, and that
Mm-hmm.
almost did me in.
Mm-hmm.
That's too much, way too much.
You can't do anything. It's just you really can. It gets boring. Gets
You get
boring and
used
kind of
to it.
depressing.
Hmm?
So actually you get used to it. I used to live up in Bellingham, Washington.
Oh, yeah, it's wet out there.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, I mean, especially
Wash.
when you're outside trying to work and farm and milk cows and you're sloshing through the
Mm-hmm.
mud. It gets pretty demoralizing pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Same here. If it's rainy outside and I can't go outside and work on something, or honestly, when it's just rainy in general, you get zapped so easily. You just don't even want to do anything inside. It's
Yeah,
like I guess this is a video game day,
Right.
pretty much.
nothing
So,
moving forward.
hmm just sit back, relax, let it rain, and do nothing. Hopefully tomorrow we can do something else. So, and speaking of doing something else, what is up with the libertarian movement and the Libertarian Party over these last few months?
It's been wild. So were either of you at the convention?
No, I couldn't make
Negative.
it.
Yeah, so I was
And
at the convention as a delegate for Oregon. It was
mm-hmm,
my first convention. Very exciting. Went all the way to DC.
mm-hmm,
And it was absolutely wild. Um,
mm-hmm,
absolutely wild. And from what I can tell, we had the good old takeover or taking the party back to its roots. Um,
mm-hmm,
Ron Paul, libertarianism, Ludwig von Mises, back in 2022. And that was kind of saying, like, what is our party doing with COVID and with all like this woke stuff and these agendas? We should be pushing back, but instead you're trying to make us get closer to that. We don't want that.
Yeah.
So there was the takedown. But I feel like at the convention, everyone's, like when you're in the throne, or not to use the word throne, but like when you're head of the program and you won, then there's a tendency to get kind of complacent or soft, like, nah, everything's fine. We don't have to worry about these guys. But no, we needed to worry about those guys because they came back with a vengeance. And the one thing they wanted was to basically just make us look bad. So we nominated like the worst guy for president. So that was weird and wild, and the political games are out of control. And I've worked with the Republican Party, and Libertarians still aren't as bad. That gets really nasty, but it was pretty bad. So I think the state Libertarian Party at its core, especially on the states levels, I think it's pretty good though. Like here in Oregon, our Libertarian Party is, we've got a really great group of people. We don't have a lot of issues with stuff like that. So
that's where it seems like we need to stick to. I mean, if you're gonna practice the aspect of politics and use that as a viable tool to spread a message, it seems like localism and regionalism is probably the best to go forth on that. So the national party, but the national party's always been like self-sabotage, and it seems like I don't know if this is what the vibe you got from being at the convention. I know it was your first one as well, and I've never been to a libertarian convention, but it seems like the whole idea is they're trying to campaign for winning an election rather than doing what they should be doing and spreading the message and trying to kind of get their feet wet on the national stage.
I didn't really feel that vibe from national themselves. I feel like the people that really push the current presidential nominee candidate, I feel like they like believe that winning is a part of the program, where it's most of us acknowledge that that's impossible on a presidential ticket, and it's more about pushing the values and the principles and message of liberty, using the platform you get. Like the platform of a president or someone running for president is huge. You have so many opportunities to bring attention to the values that are really, really important, like what Ron Paul did when he was running. Like that woke so many people up. It's such a great opportunity. So to have the opportunity kind of lost is a really big bummer. But yeah, it should be, and it mostly is, I think, about local control, local election, local politics. And when anything, I mean, a national party is needed, but of course, when anything gets too big, then bureaucracy and weird, boring, bylaw, paperwork, all that stuff kind of happens, and then not a lot of forward movement.
Yeah, and that's a shame, and it really does seem like it's self-sabotage on the libertarian part, because there's too much fighting between two different regime segues. Like you got the Mises Caucus wanting to maintain their power that they were able to take in 2022, and most of them are like ANCAPs, so they want to try to devolve away from government, but at the same time you got to play the position of politics and the party structure, and then you have the old regime that wants to gain back power, and it's a tit for tat typical libertarian infighting. Like, I mean, give up and let's get back to like the core principles of what libertarianism is all about, like what Konkin and Nolan and Rothbard actually presented the party as. And I mean, but at the same time, Konkin and Rothbard split from each other because of the parties, so it kind of makes sense. So that we're at each other's throats. So
yeah. I mean, I think having that inner competition, inner challenge maybe is what helps push movements and things forward. So that conflict might not be a bad thing in the long run, but it certainly feels like treading water and being like, how are we going to get anything done if we're so distracted by all this annoying stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it's just any way to get funding, right? So that's what it seems like to me.
Money, money, money. It's what runs everything. So for now,
it's a shame because I mean at this point you might as well just attach yourself to the Trump ticket, which effectively they kind of did when they nominated Chase and uplifted him, because I mean he's gonna what I think a lot of his messaging is, especially on the anti-war stuff, is fabulous. I think he can pull a lot of anti-war Democrats. He can even probably pull a lot of anti-war, anti-neocon Republicans. But I think the Republicans are too enrooted to Trump and getting at the establishment. And even though Trump is the establishment, and
he's remaking the
on that
establishment.
right now, though. That's you're not going to go anywhere with that right now. But he certainly does pull from Biden. And here in Oregon, we are, you know, well, now I guess we're not chasing Biden out. He already got chased out. So,
yeah.
But the plan was that we, as a blue state, we're going to really push Chase's campaign. And I'm sure that we still are, to kind of help just change things up, I guess. You know, people say, well, that means that you're going to help Trump win. Like, they're both the same. They're both bad. It's like, yeah, but one's in power right now. So we're going to take care of that first. And then we'll do the same thing to Trump. We'll call him out. We'll chase him out when he sucks. Like, that's kind of the great thing about being a third party, and the third largest party in the country, is that we have this opportunity to kind of keep things in check, or at least try.
Well,
yeah, that and oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I say it's kind of like, we're chasing him all over while he's sitting there collecting a bunch of pollution and making stinking things. Meanwhile, Trump he's got the name recognition, and yeah, he gave us a little bit of a push for coming to our convention, but it's a lot. Once you have a name, it's a lot easier to go to a place like the Libertarian Party and announce a candidacy and to make a run from that than compared to other things.
That was a crazy, that took a while to process. That was a crazy thing to happen, to watch Trump. Like, I was up in the front, and everyone was invited. Biden was invited, Trump was invited, RFK was invited. He came, he spoke. Vivek was there, and Trump came and spoke, and it was wild. It was wild being in the room, being half libertarian and half MAGA. And I haven't heard enough people talk about this, like what it was like on the floor, intermingling with these guys. And they were so uncomfortable, uncomfortable. There was a little debacle at the beginning because Secret Service let all the MAGA in while the libertarians were still lining up after we were leaving the floor voting. So we show up and there's nowhere for us to sit, and things are starting. I was one of the first libertarians in there, and things are starting to get a little tense, a little spicy. I have some videos somewhere of some like crazy arguments. But it was mostly libertarians really with bad behavior walking in there. And then Angela, the chair, asked everyone to move back and give up half their seats to libertarians, and without much conflict, they did. So that was nice. But I was running around to all the youngest, like it was like being in a hornet's nest. Like, it felt like it was gonna blow at any minute. I was like, we're gonna heckle Trump because that's what we do. We don't necessarily, we don't. He's here at our convention, but we're still gonna call him out for things that we don't like, which is a litany of things, and we'll probably cheer for the things that we do like, because this is crazy. But I was very nervous about what was happening. And I wish I had like a camera and a microphone for all these little mini interviews I was doing, because I was running up to MAGA. I was finding like the youngest MAGA guys I could find that looked like they were ready to throw down if anything happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey guys, isn't this crazy? Is this like, have you ever been to a Trump speech like this? And they were like, we go to Trump's speeches all over the place, and we've never been in a situation like this, surrounded by another party that we don't think that we agree with. And then they heard Dave Smith speak, and he gave us the dad speech telling us to behave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great. I went back to those guys and they're like, wow, we had no idea that we agreed on so many things. Like, we didn't know anything about your party. They're like, well, Trump's still our guy. He's still our guy. But I had no idea. And I was like, okay. And they're like, we just don't want you to heckle him. Like, we just don't want to hear that. And I was like, well, we're going to do that, but we'll manage our people and we'll manage it. And you guys manage your guys, and just let's not have a conflict. And it got a little intense a couple times, but we got through it. And I even found, like, when Trump said things I like, I cheered. When he said Ross Ulbricht, like, full name, I cheered, I clapped. It was exciting. And when he said that he had 0 wars during his presidency, we booed. We're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Come on, dude. But it was it was wild. Not to totally read that, because I'm sure you guys have been over it a million times.
I mean, yeah, 0 wars is laughable considering all the covert operations and the escalation of Afghanistan prior to the deal that he was able. I will give him credit on that. His administration helped us withdraw.
Yes.
Of course, the Biden administration wanted to make it look like a Trump failure, and in their withdrawal, and did it a little too earlier than they should have. I think they were 6 months early when they withdrew the way that they did. That's why you had the fiasco. But other than that, 0 wars. No. You funded Saudi Arabia to kill a bunch of Yemeni children.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, as far as it's interesting that you say that MAGA cultists, as I would like to refer to them, it seems like inside the cult, there are people that are actually relatively kind of aligned with certain ideals. Yeah, they are intelligent. Yes, they're aligned with the ideals of libertarian. They just want to be left alone. They want to live their life. They want the government to be less intrusive. And maybe, and I'm going off of Pat Kirby on this one because he talks about this and a lot of his takes. It's a great way to maybe build a coalition with those in the MAGA movement post Trump. What do you think about that? Using them, try to move them towards the libertarian idea after Trump is done.
Yeah, so post Trump is a really, really good thing to focus at. Everyone wants to like focus on right now, but thinking forward a little bit, Trump's not forever. There will be an end and there will be a void, and we still need to work together to try to push our principles and values. And it's like Dave Smith told everyone, being like, you guys are America first, but the Libertarian Party, we are truly America first, like in way more depth than you guys are. Like, you have no idea how America first we are. We are non-interventionists. Like, so a lot of the things that I think people are waking up to on the Republican side is all the foreign aid, all the foreign intervention. They're looking at war a little bit differently because it's hitting them in the pocketbook so hard. And it's being pushed by a Democrat administration. So they're obviously going to look at it negatively. So the foreign aid to Ukraine, and they're starting to be like, I don't know about this. And the Israel conflict, even that has been amazing to me, because I would think, automatically Republicans are like pro-Israel no matter what. But a lot of them are starting to be like, I don't know, I think what you guys are doing over there is kind of bad. And you're taking a lot of our money and you're creating conflicts that we're going to get dragged into. And I can't even afford groceries. And we have like huge issues in our cities, and our culture is falling apart, which they all care about. All of these, conservatism cares about all of those institutions, and everything is crumbling here. So I think that there's broad support for coalitions in the future. And I think that was the intention of leaning towards with the Mises Caucus, is leaning more towards, we should actually be pulling from these guys, because they already have a lot of this liberty mindset. They already understand America first. We could actually make a lot more forward motion on liberty with this side than with the other side that has lost its mind. and are mostly unreachable because they're not even anti-war anymore. Like, what is there left to salvage on that side? We should be pulling from this side. So I agree. In future coalitions, I think that there's a lot of possibilities.
I think about the only thing left on the other side anymore is the bodily autonomy rights. I mean, I know we're going to abortion, and they were they agree that abortion should be fine, and yeah, but then you should force a vaccine on somebody else because we got to save grandma. So, but I
Right.
think we can pull from that side because of that, and kind of say, hey, hold up, you're saying one thing and going against what you're talking about by agreeing with another point that's mandating vaccinations, like going against bodily autonomy. And I think we can use that on the left just as much as just as much as we're opening up the right's eyes to the neocon philosophy of war making and the
Right.
military industrial complex. So, but other than that, yeah, like there's really nothing on the left really to foresee, unless you want to go full Bernie and say healthcare and everything has to be monopolized by government for the general welfare.
Right. Which
So,
a lot of people are convinced, that we need more systems like that. We need more of like a European model. But
mhm.
I just can't think that way.
Well, I
There's a
think,
conflict
yeah.
of visions there.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are starting to wake up especially if they're on the internet, of course, to what they see with what's going on in Canada, and realizing, maybe government shouldn't be involved in healthcare. Maybe we
Yeah.
should take away from these subsidies and not subsidize these insurance companies to create cartels that are just money making schemes, and taking away from services from other people in order to give services to these people, and then vice versa, pre-existing conditions. Well, who cares about pre-existing conditions? Just go get help. I mean, and if one service doesn't do anything, then the next service is going to provide it because they're going to want your customer, your clientele.
Yeah. No,
Hmm.
I agree. I mean, and the left is very anti-corporation, right? Anti-capitalist. But most of the time it's anti the corporations running out of control. But the distinction that gets lost, because the
Hmm.
Republicans are like, no, corporations are good, and there's like no nuance on either side whatsoever. And then we're
Yeah.
in the middle,
Hmm.
like, corporate entanglement with the government is the problem, you guys. Corporate
Hmm.
monopolies that are allowed to happen in the first place because of government. So it's there's these two different things, and then no one's talking about the middle and about why it's so toxic and why it's so bad. And it's not the actual, like, capitalism isn't necessarily the issue, it's the way it's being wielded by the government. So
It's being centralized.
right. And at the end of the day, centralization of everything is the issue. And I would love to just break things down into almost more like tribalist groups where there's
Hmm.
way more state power. When everyone was freaking out about the Roe v. Wade ruling at the Supreme Court,
Hmm.
and I was talking to what's it? People on the left who were like, "You just took all of our rights away. This is terrible." And I was like, "They didn't take your rights away. They put the rights back where they belong, which is in the state. Like, don't you want
Hmm.
how much influence do you think you have on federal decisions? Like, it's very
Hmm.
difficult for you as an individual to influence things on a federal level, but on a state level, you have way more chance to influence things on a state level. Why wouldn't you want this to be a state issue? And if your state is like, no, like most of our constituents want it this way, then, balkanization's a thing. Like, you're going to go to
Hmm.
a state. Like, you see people moving around right now in a brand new way that we haven't done for a long time, um,
Hmm.
due to how they vote and their values. People are leaving Oregon and California in droves, and Austin, Texas is blowing up, so
Hmm.
Turning blue.
turning
Well,
blue. But
it's
Texas
always been blue.
general population is, and I heard I think it was, oh, I went and saw Dave Smith at the mothership in Austin about a month ago now. And he was talking about how Austin is obviously blue, but it's surrounded by an extreme sea of red that is kind of just keeping them in check, being like, hey, like we're right here. You guys got to be chill, because as soon as you leave Austin, like we've got our eyes on you. So I thought it was an interesting distinction.
Now, quick question on Dave: is he a failed comedian? Very successful podcast.
I've never seen his actual comedy at a comedy club. My friends invited us to go with them to the mothership just for a trip, and there was a farm out there, FAFO farm. If anyone wants to check it out, those guys are awesome. I got to meet them, so I was like, okay, let's go. And it happened to be Dave Smith, and I was like, I just saw him at the convention, and I feel like that was a comedy show the entire time. But I'll go see his comedy. It was really good. I was really impressed. He's so bright and he's so quick. And this was also the day after the assassination attempt. So he had 30 minutes of material he had just come up with based on this event that he added to his whole show. And it was on point. It was funny.
So yes, Andrew, he's a very failed podcaster and a very failed comedian.
We'll have to put him on sometime.
Yeah, we'll have to bring him on. So we're very successful, right? So we better bring the failed on.
We're putting them over.
So run for his money right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of the assassination, what do you think of that staged CIA psyop staged by Trump? I mean, just pure incompetence.
I cannot believe the times that we are living in. I'm sure that every generation thinks that their time is the most tumultuous and the most intense. I don't know if anyone's ever read The Fourth Turning by Neil Howe, or what is it, by Ray Dalio, The Changing World Order. Both of them kind of talk about the cycles that the world and the country go through. And seems to witness. I saw the assassination attempt. I was in Austin, and I saw it about 15 minutes after it happened, because we were in a hotel and we had TV, which I never have, and we just turned it on for fun to see what's happening out in the world. And it's like, oh wow, Trump almost died. We almost had mass chaos. I'm more interested in what was the plan once it worked. Like once he got shot, how and was successfully assassinated, what was supposed to happen? How is that supposed to look? What was that going to affect? Which I think is mass disruption. It would have been, it would have been insane. But what do I think about the assassination attempt? It's wild. And if anyone believes in a higher power, I don't know how you could look at that and not think that it was divine intervention. People are like, oh, like they meant to shoot just the ear, or it was an airsoft pellet, or there's all sorts of wild things. It's like I don't care what level Green Beret amazing sniper you are. No one's gonna be like, yeah, you can pretend to shoot me, but just shoot my ear. Don't shoot me in the head. Like there was the wild conspiracy theories that were like piling on top of conspiracy theories was the most annoying part, because a lot of like relevant info got lost. But yeah, it's just insane. Obviously, if not the CIA or some other shadow network involved, there was some sort of handling involved. I've heard stuff about a second shooter. It's just, and then see it just be huge for a couple of days and then just get pushed out of public eye. That was the weirdest part. Like that freaked me out. Being like, what? Like we're so, like Like we're so hardened, we're so desensitized to crazy stuff that even an assassination attempt can happen, and then we're distracted by something else shiny and we just stop talking about it. Like that's very disturbing to me. So
like Joe Biden getting pushed to the side.
Right, that's
just like that.
Now too, is there was a coup. You know, and the Democrats say it, being like, yeah, that was a coup, and we're not really happy with how that worked, but we're not gonna, you know, what are you gonna do about it? And then it's like the complacency is out of control.
The party that keeps on the narrative, shaping the narrative of our democracy, and then they
power.
end up they push an old man, incumbent president out without democracy. So it's wild times. So it is very wild times, and I think it's actually good, because I think both sides are seeing just how corrupt their government really is, especially on the federal level. So maybe the libertarians can pull the Democrats in from that, be like, democracy in work, everybody. Like Joe Biden just got pushed out for Kamala Harris.
Kamala, I haven't heard that. I like that. Yeah, because before I feel like people were voting for Biden because, you know, riding with Biden, like they felt kind of bad for the guy, and he was getting just tossed around so hard by Trump and the right. Like maybe they were like, no, we're gonna stick with our guy, and you guys are just being really mean. And but then now this happened, and they're stuck with Kamala, and no, can't pretend to like her. You know, the algorithm has been insane, pushing obviously not real metrics for her popularity. She's so unpopular. I still, I don't know. I'm actually looking forward to the DNC. And I watched the whole RNC, and that was insane. Like that made the convention I went to like nothing. DNC is actually, instead of being a normal snooze fest, I think it's going to be pretty intense.
I think so. And the super delegates they're gonna have some decisions to make, and those are the delegates that matter, because they can literally just switch to whomever.
Yeah, so they're like, it's certainly be melodramatic.
Yeah, well, anything to defeat Trump, you know, at the cost of all Americans watching this dog and pony show.
I think the rise of Hillary Clinton's coming back.
I don't know. I've been saying, like, if Kamala stays on, it's going to be a Kamala Buttigieg ticket. Like I wrote something, it was like a late night epiphany, and I was like, this is it. And I said, save the tweet. It's going to be this ticket, because like the week before all of this stuff happening, all of a sudden Pete Buttigieg, who normally you just kind of hear about him bungling things with the Department of Transportation. All of a sudden I was seeing him on all these talk shows, and people talking about how witty and fun and smart he was, and really highlighting him. And I was like, that's weird. Why is he doing a talk show circuit right now? Like no one cares about this guy. And then all the stuff goes down, and I was like, oh, that would be the dumbest ticket ever, but it makes a lot of sense why they would do that. But the whole thing might get tossed out. We might be stuck with Hillary. People really go on and on about Michelle Obama, and I don't really get it. I don't really get it.
I don't think she does either.
Big Mike, on the other hand,
he's two people.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I forgot.
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, maybe it's because of that. Like, there's so much hyper focus from the right about Michelle Obama that it's like the wildest thing that they can come up with. So that's why it's being talked about so much. But it just doesn't seem politically relevant to me. But I could be totally wrong.
Yeah, I mean, political relevancy is one thing. I don't think Michelle Obama really wants to do it. I think she actually publicly has actually stated she doesn't want to do it. Who can blame her? So who would want to become president or run for president? So
yeah, especially females that want to go through that. You see how it ages men. Like most women look at that and they're like, we don't age
That's
as
not
well.
appealing at all.
It's
Yeah.
not gonna look good, you know. And at the end of the day, Democrat Party with all their DEI and all that stuff, at the end of the day, they just want a white guy to run. Like they're gonna go or something, being like, this all sounds really nice and like ponies and unicorns, but at the end of the day, we just want a white guy to run our party. So I think it was something like that.
That's the reason why. What was that meme that you sent in the Telegram, Andrew? That's the reason why she needs a vice president, and she needs a white guy, an old white guy, who needs who has experience winning elections, being president, or welcome back, Mr. Vice President. Yeah, Joe Biden. I could actually see that. Actually, I could see a switch.
Oh wow.
I
That
could.
would be a plot twist to save century.
That would be so. I don't even know if Biden's around. Like, I was most freaking out about. I actually got ghost banned or shadow banned on Twitter. I at least that little program you can put your Twitter handle into. At least that told me, because I couldn't figure out why all of a sudden all my posts were nuked. But I had been serial posting like a maniac. Just lots of hot takes about where Joe Biden was, because I couldn't understand why more people weren't asking where the heck he was.
Yeah.
You write that you're no longer going to be the nominee and address to the nation. You write that on like a weird letter, not even like the normal letterhead for the White House, and put it on Twitter. And there's no public statement. And then he's really sick and we can't see him. Like that, it's like, who's in control of the country? This is a national security risk. This is an issue. Everyone should be freaking out about this. And then he did show up, and it was even weirder.
Well,
it was almost like it was CGI.
What are you talking about? I mean, we don't need a president. We survived the last 4 years, 3.5.
That's the point that everyone says, being like, well, you know, we haven't had one, so why are you freaking out? You know. Which is true. Good point.
We really, and speaking of like the aging aspects, I mean, especially for women, like you look at Joe Biden, like how he came in obviously not cognitively fit, and look how much worse he's been within the last 3 years, 3.5 years now. He's gotten dramatically worse. So like we don't need a president, for one. Realistically, we don't. Obviously, that's proof that somebody's with Joe Biden, that the president hasn't been anything but just a figurehead for decades. And then on top of that, just the aging effect and the stress from the stress relation of being president obviously puts a toll.
Or just being in a toxic environment. Like I can't imagine what it's like. What it's actually like. You know, you have people going there with good intentions, maybe. You know, that's what they like to say about Obama, was that he went in there with clear conscience and got corrupted. I don't know about that. I think the guy's been corrupted forever. But it also, like, the focus that's put on the president, it's so silly. Like, the president technically should just be a glorified spokesperson for what our Congress does. They're just someone for you to look at who relays the information about the state of the country, the laws and bills that Congress is passing, so that the American people have someone to look at and be like, okay, you're representing what's happening over there. But and no one actually, they are now a little more, but like no one's actually focusing on what's happening in Congress. They don't care about that. They just care about whatever this guy over here is doing. It's totally backwards. It's not how it's actually supposed to work.
And speaking of representation, you've decided to delve into the political sphere of things and jump into your district over in Oregon. Why don't you tell us about that a little bit? What made you decide to just jump into the political sphere and get your feet wet?
Well, I've been involved with the political sphere for a while now, basically since 2020. I've always been interested in politics. I've always followed politics, but I was also just farming full time. So the world could burn down. We've got food. We've got our own community. We're good to go.
Yeah.
But then I moved to Portland in 2019
Mhm.
My husband, after I got married, and my husband, we moved up here for work, and it was like Portland's cool and weird and wacky. Like let's go to
Mhm.
it. It'll be fine. And then COVID hit, and it was in my face, and so I got very involved in medical freedom and protests and
Mhm.
activism. I was the political action director for a big organization up here called Free Oregon. Um,
Mhm.
made a lot of connections that way. And then I
Yeah.
worked on a couple campaigns, most notably a gubernatorial race for Republican governor. And then I basically burned out and was like, this is not the answer to anything. Basically,
Mhm.
on my own, came up with the definition for agorism without realizing that it was already a thing. And
Mhm.
I was telling my friend, who was the chair of our Libertarian Party at the time, this idea I had where we create this parallel economy and we just basically make all these systems obsolete and we just do everything
Mhm.
on our own. We build these networks and we don't need to use their schools. We don't need to use their hospitals and all this stuff. And he's like, this has a name. It's called agorism. And I was like, dang, I
Mhm.
thought I came up with it all by myself. So then I got very involved in agorism and talking about it, learning about it more and more,
Mhm.
reading Conken's work. So my decision at that point was I'm going to stay out of politics
Mhm.
because it kind of it takes a toll on you and it's
It
easy to
does.
burn out. And I'm just going to full time focus on that. And going to the convention, getting more involved in my state party with the Libertarian Party. I'm the public policy board secretary for the Libertarian Party. It made me realize that I do have a knack for politics. I really do enjoy it. And
Mhm.
we have terrible representation here in Oregon. And it was brought up to me that, hey, there's a race happening between Lori Chavez DeRemer and Janelle Bynum. So Lori is the Republican incumbent and Janelle is the Democrat
Mhm.
challenger. And it's for US House Representatives Congress, District 5. And I live in District 5. And I also know Lori, and I really, really dislike Lori. She has been a terrible, terrible congresswoman.
Mhm.
The way her stance on war, the way that she votes on bills, she has this whole, I'm bipartisan, I'm going to work across the aisle better than anyone. She does this constantly, but in doing so, because there's always room for that. Like people are tired of
Mhm.
division. But in doing so,
Mhm.
she's completely sacrificing principles and values of her constituents. And I'm
Mhm.
very familiar with the grassroots Republicans and conservatives in Oregon because I worked with them with medical freedom. And I know how
Yeah.
completely disenchanted they are by this. And they want better representation. This is a nationally recognized battleground race. And
Mhm.
if a libertarian, if third party steps in, we have the opportunity to push the message of liberty and influence elections. And this is
Mhm.
one that is perfect for us to influence um, by putting someone who is a grassroots activist up against this kind of establishment shill that doesn't
Mhm.
represent anyone. And then the very radical extreme left Democrat.
Mhm.
So I have the experience and I understand Oregon politics and also I understand what's happening on federal level. It needs to be stopped.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a funny place for me to be because I want the federal government to be, made this big.
Mhm.
It's like a behemoth right now that's making
Yeah.
massive decisions about your livelihood and regulations that affect you and the taxes that are coming at you and your ability to provide for your family. So the whole thing needs to be tightened up. And if you wanted to look at a congressman that is a great representation for liberty and principles currently, that would be more like a Thomas Massey.
Mhm.
That's what I say. It's like we need to have more Thomas Masseys, less Lori's. So
He's right across. He's right across the river from me,
oh
Northern
yeah.
Kentucky. So.
Yeah, I saw him at the convention. I had an opportunity to meet him, but I just
Mhm.
shy running up to people and
No.
meeting them. So So yeah, so that motivated me to run, just as an opportunity to, if you have a lot to say and if you have a particular vision, if you exist only in an echo chamber, you can't get the message out. It's like I can talk about agorism all day online, but my reach isn't going to be quite big enough. If we want to actually instill these values in people and let them even see that there's other options or different ways of doing things or ways to think about things, it's good to have a bigger platform for a wider audience. So when this came up, it was like, well, this is going to be a great opportunity to share this message as well and hopefully influence people to see that if the Republican Party keeps on selecting candidates for their constituents that are garbage, like, nothing is going to change. So to show that there's an alternative is important.
And that works out for your messaging as well, considering, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, the fact that Oregon is predominantly red on the outer stretches of like the east, controlled by all the cities in the west. So it makes a lot more sense to kind of go after those constituents that are Republican-esque, but are probably more libertarian in their own viewpoints. So the Republican incumbent in your district is an absolute establishment shill. The Democrats are just Democrats. The Democrat is just a Democrat. So like, why not go after the messaging of maybe pulling those votes away from? I mean, it could backfire. I mean, you could pull votes and the Democrat somehow wins, but wouldn't that also show that the system is completely garbage in its own right? If that ends up happening, so there's two. It's kind of like killing two birds with one stone. Message for liberty and showing that the two parties are a joke.
Right, that it's a duopoly. Like they vote the same. They all talk to each other. They all play the same games. And people do bring that up. There's a few Republicans that I've talked to that are pretty frustrated with me running because they're saying you're going to make Lori lose. And I'm like, but she's not even a Republican. She's not even acting like one. They're like, yeah, but the way that it calculates out at the national level, you're going to make this have a Democrat and she's terrible. It's like, okay, like, let's say that happens. Like I spoil it and the Democrat gets in. She's going to be in office for one term, which is 2 years. And then we're going to run someone against her and we're going to kick her. Like, we don't discriminate. We don't like both of you, neither side. So we're not like on the Democrat side or on the Republican side. As long as either side runs garbage candidates, we actually have the power, especially in this race where it only takes 2%, which is an easy metric for libertarians to poll. As long as your state parties run bad candidates that are not pro-liberty, we're going to find people to run against you, and you're not going to get to serve more than one term. You're going to be in, you're going to be out. You're not going to be able to really influence anything. And then people are like, oh, that's a really interesting idea. It's like, you got to look at things as like a long-term strategy, not just instant gratification. Like, I'm happy now because my guy is in office. It's like, what are they doing in office? What does it mean in the long term?
It's sort of like how, going back to the national party and the presidential ticket, they're looking at the short-term gratification of winning an election. Well, what is Chase going to do in the long term if he's only going to pull like 0.5% in this election and nobody wants him? I mean,
and he's going to make Trump win.
Exactly.
You guys like are what you hate. You fed the monster by feeding your own egos and your own thirst for revenge. Good job.
It's like Hercules fighting Hydra. You chop off one head and it grows back and you still have 4 other heads anyway. So I mean, good luck. So I mean, it sounds intriguing to jump into politics and run. So maybe you should do that, Andrew. You should run for mayor of Conway.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm just waiting.
Yeah, mayor's a fun one, and it gets it's already gotten weird. Like the Oregon Republican Party has already sent a letter. Like I haven't filed my paperwork yet. I've been officially nominated by Libertarian Party, but I haven't filed my paperwork yet. The Oregon Republican Party has already sent a letter from their lawyer to the Secretary of State trying to challenge our entire election and our party's bylaws, saying that we are in what is the word?
Violation.
Violation of there's some bylaw stuff, and that all of our candidates should just get thrown out and not allowed on the ballot. And I'm like, this is really validating, guys. Like, you just gave me a big ego boost for my campaign because you're this violation that they're stating. It's from like 10 years ago. They've had 10 years to basically sue us, which is the next step, which is what they're threatening. You've had 10 years to do this, but you're doing this now because you see the influence that I and a few other libertarians that are also running in some really close races. Like, instead of just pushing forward on the merit of your own candidates, you're trying to take out an entire state party. Like, that's wild. So that's been a really funny and interesting development. We'll see what happens. We'll see what the Secretary of State says, but
hopefully the Secretary of State says, why not just let the voters decide? But I mean, typical of the big parties to sue the little parties out, so they don't have any. New York doesn't. I think New York basically has no libertarian, at least on the state level, because they did it to. Well, of course, New York has its own issues, and it was the Republicans. I think when Larry Sharpe ran for governor, I think it was his 2022 campaign. It was the Republicans that sued him out of existence. The Democrats are just in power, so like they can just write you off. But they all work with each other. They all co-opt with each other.
Oh yeah,
they all use this.
Notice the Democrats aren't the ones writing the letter though, because they're like, like, we're not going to complain about that because they think that it's going to benefit them. The Republicans are like, what is happening?
And if it was the exact opposite, then you would get the letter from the Democrats, and the Republicans would be like,
which if the Democrat does win, if I don't win or Lori doesn't win, the same thing will happen in 2 years, and we'll get sued by the Democrat Party, and it's just on and on and on and on. I forgot about that happening to Larry. I've been on his show. I should talk to him and see if he wants to rehash that for me.
We need to bring him back so Andrew can pick his brain.
Yeah, maybe he can only get rid of his bald head.
Yeah. Support us any way, shape, or form. I'd like to get you some t-shirts, and Andrew would like some earplugs. So you can get rid of
being bald.
No, I don't like it. Then shave it.
You just gotta go really long on the sides, like just do the comb over. Bring the comb over.
I'm pulling the George Costanza here.
I thought you were pulling the Bernie Sanders.
Well, I'm not running for Congress or anything, so.
George Costanza is all right.
I do like the pony, so.
The pony show is great. So, anything else that you want to add, Andrew? Ask, concerns, argue, debate.
No, but I didn't say pony show. I said I like ponies, like Farm Supreme. Oh
yeah, that guy. He didn't show up to our convention.
That's weird. Yeah, I think he would have showed up.
Ye old boothead. I don't think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he wasn't there. We had
passed the background check. I'm sure they probably did a pretty deep background check, but the convention says Trump was there.
Sure.
When he spoke, we had to go through the security with the Secret Service, and that was pretty extensive. Like, you couldn't even bring a vape in there. Couldn't bring a water bottle. Like, no hard objects. They were pretty serious.
I'm surprised they didn't allow shoes.
Yeah, right?
I don't think Trump's as agile as George W. Bush, so he'd
Yeah,
probably get
that's
hit.
still, I still like to watch that sometimes because it was just it's kind of amazing.
Hmm. Although it would have been nice to see what was the guy that dressed in the thong? That would have been funny to see him with the shoe launch at Trump.
For a child,
Yeah.
I have a lot
What
of
is
opinions.
what is the deal with him?
There's a lot of Star Child is a great example of why letting there just be like, yes, we're libertarians, yes, freedom of
Hmm.
expression, no, like, you know, um, like no making decisions about bodily autonomy, like no making decisions about how other people conduct themselves.
Hmm.
But you got to have a level of decorum. I think that would be useful for
Hmm.
participating in something like a convention where we had maybe normally we can kind of get away with stuff like that, but we had national television. Like C-SPAN
Yeah.
was just watching us all day. And who
Hmm.
just keeps on wandering in front of national television? It's Star Child. Who do all
Yeah.
the media go and focus on? They're like, we're going to go check out the Libertarian Convention where some really big things are happening this year. And then it's just a close up of Star Child's butt, like, or him
Hmm.
like dressed in a lion's outfit. Like, it, I hated it. I yelled at one media person. I was walking by. I was fed up. I'd been on the floor voting. Also, Star Child, I don't think is even a delegate. Like, wasn't on the floor. Was just there to get
Hmm.
in front of every single camera.
Hmm.
I walk by and there's like like five different media groups, just all like in a circle, videoing Star Child doing whatever.
Hmm.
And I walk by, and I'm like, you guys realize that there's like 700 libertarian delegates here that you could speak to,
Hmm.
like that represent the party. But no, you're here doing this. Good job. And they got all
Yeah.
mad, yelled at me, being like, why are you so mean? It's like, because you guys, we see you, we see what you're doing.
Hmm.
Like,
Shocking eye.
no, I can't control Star Child, but you guys could conduct yourselves a little more honestly. Like,
Hmm.
this is front row is all you see, you know.
Hmm.
So that was annoying. It is what it is. I think that we should have decorum. I think that we should have almost like a dress code, but there's a lot of argument
Hmm.
about that, you know,
Hmm.
rightly so. So we'll see what happens with the next convention.
Oh yeah, I think Dave Smith actually says something about this. It's decadence, right? So like, it's cool that you want to express yourself, but like that's not really freedom. Like liberty is responsibility for your own self, and decadence is just. I mean, that's libertinism. That's just basically thinking that you can do whatever you want. It's like
French
we're having
Revolution
this.
stuff.
Yeah, we're having this culture war thing between the right and the left right now with the LGBT thing and the supposed like pride marches where you have like old weirdos like shaking their junk in front of kids, and yet this is what you're seeing at the Libertarian Convention. I'm like, I get it, you can express yourself, but at the same time, pick and choose where to express yourself. Be
Right,
professional.
right,
So,
right.
hmm.
Be professional.
Hmm.
Which I will say by like the last day of convention during the presidential votes, we were there till 11 at night. Later, we were on the floor for like,
Hmm.
I don't remember how many hours, but from 9 a.m. until 11 or midnight voting. We were all
That's
pretty haggard. Like we really
hmm.
lost a lot of our professionalism by the time it was like,
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
were going to the
I don't.
bar and getting little drinks and then kind of, drinking them at the table while we're voting. And then by the time it was 11 o'clock, it's like the bottles were on the table. People are like,
Hmm. Hmm.
devolving into madness. It's like, all right, this is how it goes. Great.
We're done
Not with a
here. We
bang,
want to
but with a
get done.
whimper.
Yes. Yes.
So, yep. Uh, Andrew, you have anything to add? I think we've
Uh,
ran out we're getting close to that hour mark. So,
yeah, I just want to ask. You said you were there when Trump was speaking. Were you part of the other group of people that had their back to him?
No, no, because I'm a good faith actor. I don't, we invited the guy there. He was there to appeal to us.
hmm.
Um, he needs us. We don't need him. That's very, very clear. I didn't need to
Yep.
make a display to try and make things worse. I wanted everything to be kosher. I want everything to be chill.
I understand.
How?
I just,
Yeah.
I just figured I'd ask since, we were talking about it. It had been mentioned before in other
Mhm.
circles. So,
Yeah, there was a few people with their backs to him, which I didn't mind. It was just the people that were like nonstop screaming. It's like, no, we kind of had an agreement within our groups that when people started booing, rightly so, that we would all turn it into a chant for "in the Fed." So at least it was something constructive, not just yelling and heckling and booing, which would then piss off MAGA, and then they'll start yelling, and then we'll yell back, and the whole thing falls apart. And that actually worked really, really well. It's like, okay, we have an opportunity to be heard. Everyone's looking at us right now. Let's chant something that we care about, not just say you suck. It's not.
Yeah, let's not fall into the MAGA trap. That's something they would yell, "You suck." So
Yeah. Or
do
the extreme
something.
left, which just likes to out-scream people, which is
Yeah.
also a bad look.
Oh, the purple-haired screech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a few of those, and
Yeah.
it was annoying.
So yeah. Oh, I mean, it's interesting. How was how was it when RFK was up on the stage?
I didn't watch his whole speech. It was a much smaller crowd.
Yeah.
He was fine. He was just kind of going on his script. Kind of boring, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't really interplay with the audience or anything that people were saying. He was getting heckled too a little bit. But I don't know. I wasn't like, there was nothing stirring about it or that got me super excited. It's RFK. He did fill out the paperwork to actually be a nominee. Someone on the floor went up and nominated him, and he immediately got kicked off the roster because no one voted for him because he's not a libertarian.
Yeah.
But he had quite a few supporters there. And then I saw my favorite part was Vivek, Ramaswamy, and Clint Russell for the VP debate. That was really cool. That was very relaxed and natural, and a really great flowing conversation between the two. And then with Dave Smith moderating.
Yeah, I watched that. I mean, it actually was a pretty decent debate. They actually had more of a conversation. They let each other talk. So we need more of that. It was really discourse. It was true discourse.
And that apparently, Clint said it on his Twitter, but apparently that was Vivek's idea to just do the chairs like that, because they were going to do podiums and have an old-fashioned debate. He's like, can we make this more of a conversation? Can we just do this? And Clint was saying that he appreciated that.
Oh, yeah. I think Vivek probably knew he was going to get destroyed at the Libertarian Party. He has some things. Yeah.
Play this a different way. That was smart.
Yeah, it was smart. So out of probably 20% that I would probably say I agree with them, 80% is not good. Typical neocon bullshit.
He's got his issues.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of libertarians that are they'll make room for him. They think that he's principle, and he's almost there. He's close enough.
He's a good
mediator,
strategy. I guess.
Yeah.
So, well, we're actually towards the end of that hour. We've hit the hour mark. So, do we have anything else to bring about? We probably could make this conversation go even longer. We could probably go days, hours, if not days, honestly, and that would probably get a little boring, like the Libertarian Convention where you're there at 1 o'clock in the morning, still voting or whatever.
Yeah.
So, with that, anything that you want to add, Sonja? More plugs, or how about your family's farm website for our viewers?
Yeah, my family's farm is heliosfarms.com. You can also go to hfpma.com to sign up as a member. It's a membership only farm, and it is run by the Orthomolecular Garden Church. And then also my website is not live yet, but I do have a Twitter for my campaign, and it's just Sonja with a J, number 4, Oregon. You can also reach me if anyone's interested in helping with the campaign or donating at Sonja number 4 Oregon.com.
Yeah, spread the message and support any way you can. So that's what it's all about. And then as far as Helios, they do ship, right? So anybody
They do
can.
ship to members, yes. They have
Mhm.
an awesome dry ice making machine. So they're
Mhm.
different products all around the country. And they also have a program where they help other farms become private membership associations that are connected to their ministry. So
Nice. So support local family farms. So yep. So and support Sonja in any way, shape, or form. Whether you agree with libertarianism or not, you can be a Republican or a Democrat. I'm sure that if you're in Oregon, you don't want either. So even the Democrats hate the Democrats. So especially now, and the Republicans are not Republicans. So or whatever that is. I would beg to differ. I think they're still Republicans.
And
1854 socialists.
there you
anything's
go.
better than those blasted wigs.
Yes.
So, and then but with that, thank you, Sonja, once again for coming on. That's Andrew Joseph with his what is that background?
It's Super
What
Metroid.
Yeah, Super Metroid. So play that game. Super Metroid. Great game,
Very
actually.
good
It's
game.
been a while. So I am the legacy of Jennifer Ant Kaiser. I'm Zachary Kaiser, and let's go ahead and teleport off this planet and get back on the Enterprise. I'm kind of bored. Let's,
Bye. Thank you for
let
having me.
Thanks for
so
watching,
thank you
guys.
again,
Have a good
son.
day.
Me too.
Peace.
Bye.